Hello everyone, my name is Tarun and in this module we'll be studying about constructors and inheritance. So let's start with constructors. What is a constructor? A constructor is nothing but a simple block of code that we write inside a class and it gets invoked every time we create a new object. So every time we create a new object, a constructor is invoked. So what is the use of this constructor? A constructor is used to initialize the data members for any object. Suppose I have data members for this class as int speed and let's say string sound. These are the two data members of class animals. So what the use of constructor is, it is used to initialize the value of speed and sound, the two data members, for any object. These will be different for different objects. So for every object, constructor will initialize these two values. A constructor has same name as that of class name, and so for this class animals, the constructor will be named animals only, and it does not have any return type. It does not return anything. It only initializes the values, right? There are two types of constructors, default constructor and parameterized constructor. What is a default constructor? Suppose we create a new object named dog is equal to new animals, right? We've created this object dog, and as soon as we create this object, the Java sees this new keyword and automatically invokes the constructor. But we have not defined any constructor here or anywhere in this program. So where is the constructor? How will the values of these variables initialize? So what Java does is that Java automatically creates a constructor of its own known as default constructor to initialize the value of data members as 0 or null. The value of speed will be 0 because it is integer, and the value of sound will be null. So let's say I print the values of these two. Dog.speed and dog.sound, right? I'm printing the value of speed and sound for this object dog. So see, even if we don't create a constructor of our own, Java is creating a default constructor which initializes the value for the data members as 0 or null, whatever. This is a default constructor. So what is a parameterized constructor? So parameterized constructor is a constructor which is called when we pass the values for data members as arguments, right? So suppose if I pass the value for speed and sound for this object dog, suppose I send the value for speed as 30 and the value for sound as bark, right? I want to initialize the value of speed as 30 and sound as bark, but it's showing an error. Why? Required no arguments. I said that Java creates a constructor of its own, but it's a default constructor, not a parameterized constructor. It cannot take any argument. So we will have to create a constructor of our own. So we have created this constructor animals. It is taking two values, one integer and one string. Two parameters it's taking, integer and string. So let's say int sp for speed and string so for sound, and let me initialize the values. Speed is equal to sp, sound is equal to so, right? And let me print these two values in this constructor. Let's say system dot out dot println, right? And let's say we print something like we are looking at an animal with speed, and let's give the value of speed, and sound as the value of sound, right? And one semicolon. So what will happen after this? When we execute this, we will see that the output is we are looking at an animal with speed 30 and sound as bark. So what we have done is that we have initialized the value of speed and sound by passing them as arguments. This is known as parameterized constructor, right? So what will happen if I create another object, animals? Suppose there's an animal we don't know anything about, it's an alien animal, is equal to new animals, and we don't have the value for its speed and sound, right? So what will happen? It's showing an error. Why? Because I told you that Java creates a default constructor by itself. But what happened when we create a constructor, a parameterized constructor of our own, is that it overrides the default constructor by Java, and the default constructor of Java is lost. So we will have to create a new constructor without any arguments, right? And let's say we give the value for speed as 0 and the value of sound as null, right? And we do print the same thing in this constructor too. So let's see what happens. First, when we create this object dog, we are looking at an animal with speed 30 and sound as bark. But when the animal alien comes, we do not have the value for its speed and sound. So it's not passing any arguments, the speed and sound. So it checks where is the constructor which does not take any argument. This is the constructor which does not take any arguments. So it will call this one constructor. So as soon as it calls this constructor, the value of speed is 0 and the sound is null. So the line is printed. We are looking at an animal with speed 0 and sound as null, right? This property is known as constructor overloading. The same constructor animal is used to do different things. We are overloading the same constructor once without sending any argument, and another time by sending the arguments sp and so, the arguments 30 and bark. So these are two types of constructors, default constructor and parameterized constructor, and this property is known as constructor overloading. So we can also do one more thing. Let's say we take the value of speed and sound from user, right? So we'll have to create a new scanner class. Scanner class is used to scan the values as input. So it is same as creating an object, but we have to use the keyword scanner. Let's say scanner sc. Sc is the name of the scanner variable, new, not very different from any other object, and we write here system dot in. So this line is used every time we want user to enter some things for us, right? It's showing an error. Why? Because we have created the scanner class and we don't have the package for scanner. So what we can do is we can click this error icon here and add import java.util.scanner. It will import a new package java.util.scanner which supports the scanner class for the user to input the speed and sound. So how do we enter the speed and sound? Let's say the speed we say as int s is equal to sc dot next. So as soon as I type next, it is showing many different options: byte, int, short, next. So for integer we need next int. That's how it takes an integer as an input. For the other variable sound, let's say string SOU is equal to sc dot next. So we need user to enter string. So we click this one, right? So that's how user will enter an integer and a string. Let's add one more line here for user to ask to enter the speed and sound. Please enter the speed and sound of the animal, right? We are asking user to enter the speed and sound of the animal. So int s, we are taking an integer as input. String SOU is equal to sc dot next. This line is used to take a string as input from user. Once we have taken the input integer and string, we can pass it on to the constructor. How? Like we create a new object, animals tiger is equal to new animals, but we are not giving the values of our own. We are sending the values s comma SOU, the values entered by the user, right? So what will happen is that it will take the integer as s and string as SOU and pass it on to the constructor with arguments, right? So what will happen if I execute this program? First one, we are looking at an animal with speed 30 and sound as bark. We are looking at an animal with speed 0 and sound as null. Next time, for another animal, it asks us to enter the speed and sound. So let's enter speed as 80 for tiger and sound as roar. Enter. We are looking at an animal with speed as 80 and sound as roar. So this is all about default and parameterized constructor. One more thing in this constructor is this keyword. So what is the use of this keyword? This keyword is used to refer to the current object, right? Like in the case of this no argument constructor, if I write something like this dot this of 0 comma, what it's doing is, in the case of alien, when the object alien was created, it calls this constructor, and what it does is that it refers to the current object this means alien of 0 comma null. It's again calling another t constructor with the values 0 and null. So what it does is that it passes the value of 0 and null to parameterized constructor, because we are sending the parameters as 0 and null. Instead of initializing the value of speed equal to 0 and sound equal to null, we pass these values to the parameterized constructor, and what it does is that it passes the value of 0 to speed and null to SO, and then again everything happens. So if we execute, where we see that the output is same. So what we did was we took the help of this keyword and inside the no argument constructor we again called a parameterized constructor instead of initializing the values ourselves, right? We could have also done like this dot speed is equal to 0, this dot sound is equal to null. This will also do the same thing, and then print we are looking at an animal with speed. Again, this keyword refers to this object alien dot speed equal to 0, alien dot sound equal to null. It does nothing but initialize the value of speed and sound again as 0 and null, but differently. So that was all about constructors. Next we'll study about inheritance.